All right, welcome to the Travis Perry podcast. Today, I have the honor and privilege of having Chris Dufresne with us here. Chris, he brings 25 years of expertise in the digital space with a strong focus on consumer experience. As VP of Experience at Allina Health for 8 years, he led initiatives to enhance the healthcare journey for patients and consumers alike. Before that, he spent 13 years at Target's headquarters in Minneapolis, holding various leadership roles dedicated to improving the customer experience. In December 2024, Chris founded Vital Way Digital, a digital experience agency dedicated to empowering purpose-driven organizations. With a data-driven, results-oriented approach, Vital Way helps healthcare and nonprofit organizations thrive through innovative digital solutions that elevate engagement and impact. Chris, welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Dr. Perry. Great to be here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure. Really excited to have this conversation today. Why don't you fill us in? Why don't you tell us how this journey led to where you are today?
Sure. Well, a little bit about me, which is important in understanding some of the context. I'm born and raised in St. Paul, Minnesota, and a lot of people don't realize St. Paul is the capital of Minnesota. It's not Minneapolis. There's a little bit of a rivalry between the cities. Born and raised, and have my family here, my extended family, and my wife and two children, 13 and 17. My journey career-wise started out at Target Corporation, as you had mentioned, in a number of different roles, from intern all the way to senior manager level. And then I moved from there to Allina Health, where I was there about 8 years, leading the digital team. And then in September of 2023, I was, prior to, I'd been thinking about just being ready for a change. Like, I liked Allina, I had a great team, great leaders, but was just ready for a change and wanted to try going to the vendor side, and tried out a couple of different vendors, learned a ton from them. And it helped me realize that it was time to do my own thing. And I just wanted to be able to operate a business, differently than some of the ways that I've seen. And also grew up, my dad is an entrepreneur. I saw the blood, sweat, and tears that he put into his business. So I went into this eyes wide open, but also knowing some of the challenges, that this is not just all unicorns and rainbows and all is easy. That it's a lot of work. It's stressful, especially once you have a team and clients, you feel a responsibility to them. So that's where I felt it was time. My wife and I talked about it, and I was affected by a layoff in November of last year. And that was kind of the kick in the pants to go at it. So I did. I started Vital Way Digital. I had also heard from a local person that I know through our food shelf, that I lead the board of, that he had a digital agency for the past 20 years and was looking to sell it just as part of his retirement transition. And so ended up purchasing his agency and have been weaving that into Vital Way Digital too. And that's been great because it's provided a nice springboard, as well as a great team of experts. And then he has also been with us, and will be with us for a total of a year, to help with the transition and act as a mentor for me as well.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks for sharing a little about your story. I'm sure we'll learn more through the podcast here today. What I love is that just, looking at this transition, is that your wife was part of that, the support package. Talk to us a little about how important it is to have a supportive spouse and family as you're launching and growing businesses.
Yeah. So my wife and I have both had pretty windy road careers. And so we both gone through the different twists and turns. So she's been in the education profession for 20 plus years, and different types of roles, and helping students, helping colleagues, helping administrators. So she has a business mindset too, I would say. And when we were talking, I just realized that, we can stretch our dollar a bit further, because, as anyone knows, when you start a business, you're not suddenly bringing in the salary that you might have had at a regular job, right? And that security blanket is gone. At least the feeling of a security blanket. We all know work can be pretty volatile too, and just because you have a job doesn't mean you're solid forever, right? But having those conversations and having someone who can push you and be supportive along the way, and it's kind of a give and take, or a give and give, maybe, is the way to look at it, because she's had similar turns in her career. And, it's fun to be able to compare notes at dinner with the family. As I went through the transition too, and, a very turbulent, honestly, 2024 and 2023, just from a career perspective, made sure that I openly talked about it with my family. Like, we have family dinner at least 4 or 5 times a week, if not more, where we're sitting down at the table or maybe going out to eat and making sure that we have those conversations about what's going on and the challenges, everything from, hey, here's the savings we have, we're working through that, here's how unemployment works, and really just trying to help the kids see how this stuff works and realize how fortunate we are even in an unemployment situation. And then in starting the business and knowing that there's some sacrifices to make. For example, I try to go to at least one evening networking event each month that takes me away for an evening. And many times a client meeting or two happen each month. So that's 3 evenings that I'm not home. But otherwise, great flexibility and the ability to flex where and when I work in order to do as best I can in having a balance.
Yeah. Hey, I love it. I love because there are so many out there who think they can only have it one way, right? They can only have balance and not be able to grow, or they think that I have to grow and I throw balance out the window. And the fact that you're able to really do both is a great example. I appreciate that and what you're doing. Talk to us a little bit about what you do for for businesses. What is it that you have found is like the main issue that you're trying to solve there for businesses?
Sure. So one of the things that I've seen through my career is um, the continuum has continued to evolve. And when I say continuum, I mean, on one side, you have in the marketing agency space, you have solopreneurs who are great at SEO or great at web design or web development, whatever that skill may be, but it's them and they're great at it. On the other side, you've got giant agencies that bring a whole lot of capabilities to the table, but there's usually a lot of overhead, which means the price is pretty high. Or sometimes they bring like 20 people to a project that needs three. Where I've seen a gap grow in the most recent years, is in that middle tier of agencies that can be multifaceted, have multiple capabilities, and that is where small and mid-sized businesses need help. And so, Vital Way Digital is really a fractional digital team for small and mid-sized business owners. We also, of course, have some larger clients too. It's not only small and mid-sized, but that's really where I see opportunity for growth in the company, is helping the solopreneur or the early phase company continue to grow, or even that company that's been around for 10 or 15 years and has hit kind of their growth peak and is ready for another investment to continue to grow. That's where we come in, because we can bring the right skills to the table for the right amount of time. We can do that because I've got a great solid employee base, in addition to 1099 contractor base of freelancers who want to work on their own. They're their own business owners. They're those solopreneurs I mentioned earlier. But how do we bring them together and we form a team that can provide our clients with what they need and ultimately help grow their organization profitably? And then who we target is also unique in that we target and want to help nonprofit organizations as well as for profit. On the for profit side, we focus pretty heavily within healthcare. So think small healthcare like rural hospitals, small physician groups, specialty physician practices, dentists, chiropractors. Really, oftentimes, and I saw this when I was at Alina, which is a pretty large health system here in Minnesota and Wisconsin, that the small health systems and practices need these digital capabilities, but they can't afford a web developer, a social media person, a copywriter, a graphic person. They can't do all of that. So we can provide that for them with the expertise that we have in healthcare. In addition, we focus quite a bit on manufacturing and home services. And when you look at all of these, the underpinning that really is the focus for us is helping good people doing good work do more good. And when I say that, it doesn't necessarily mean everyone has to be a nonprofit. It's okay to turn a profit as long as you're doing it in a sustainable way that helps people and shares that wealth, right? And so that's been our focus, is working with purpose-driven businesses. And when I say purpose-driven, what I mean is I look at profit as an outcome, but not the sole driver. If you treat people well, your customers, clients, contractors, employees, and you do good work, the profit thing happens. You don't have to say, we are here to only ensure maximum value for shareholders, right? Even if you are owned
Right.
by shareholders, that's great. You can ensure that maximum value by doing good in the world and being a great partner with all of the people that you interact with.
Well said. Well said. I love that you're helping businesses. The solopreneur, man, they can really, really struggle with so many things to do. They become do-it-alls. I mentioned this in my books. That like, if we're not careful, we don't outsource, we don't delegate, we don't delete the things that we shouldn't be doing. And to have a team like yours is fractional that can fill that need, man, that seems so incredibly useful. So I love that you're making yourselves available to nonprofits, for profits, and some of these solopreneurs out there because they absolutely need it. Talk to us. If I'm a solopreneur and I'm have a professional company or I'm running a nonprofit, what's a framework that you operate under to help do good?
I think a huge part of it is building a strong relationship. And so, my main marketing technique, which is a little bit odd being that I'm a digital marketing agency in many respects, is leveraging my network and people that I meet with and talk to and going to networking events. And that doesn't just mean in person, it can be virtual events as well to connect and identify who might those people be that need some help. And then my first step is really just understanding them, their background, their business, their purpose, their focus, right? And where they need some help, right? And oftentimes that's I don't have enough time, or I don't have the expertise to do the marketing, or I can't afford to hire a giant agency, or I hired an agency that's like a $500 a month agency that I found online, and they didn't deliver what I needed. And so understanding from them kind of where they're at. And then where we start is I work to bring together the right team of people and the right skills depending on what it seems like that client needs. If it's web design, if it's social, if it's email marketing, those are just some of the examples. Brand strategy, bringing the right people to the table that can help me look at it differently as well. I don't know everything, I'll admit it, and I admit that to my clients. Like, that's why I bring other people to the table. We're going to get a much better outcome with more perspectives. And so bring the right people to the table. And then with that team, we work to understand more about the client. We generally have a 2 hour working session or workshop, we call it, because it's not just a talk, a present. There's actually no slides that we use. It is dialogue and using kind of analog means to better understand and frame up the client and their situation and their marketing goals, do some ideation together. And then from that, we can build out a proposal that's tailored and fits what their needs are. And generally, it's a phase one through X proposal. We start with phase one with some view to what the future could be. But we know that a lot of times a business owner needs to see some traction or needs to see some revenue and profit coming in from the marketing before they can reinvest in more, right? And so our steps are build a strong relationship, seek to build out the right team and understand more about your client and tailor what you can provide to that client, and then deliver. And the delivery also has its challenges, and we have our methods there, but that's really kind of the core business development method that I've been using, and it's been working. We've been growing, and it's been great.
That's wonderful. Yeah. I mean, relationships. We're in a
It's
world where
basic but
it's
important.
just like back to Dale Carnegie, right? How to win friends and influence people. It's like start with the relationship first.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So let's say you
Dr.
were
Perry,
in
one
this.
thing just to
Yeah,
underscore on what you said is
yeah,
the relationships are key, but it's genuine relationships, right?
100%.
People can smell phony. And so if you're trying too hard, people know that. Be yourself.
Yep.
I tell my clients that, and I tell them my team is themselves. Authenticity is one of the things we really value, not just in the marketing that we do, but in how we come across as ourselves. Like, I don't wear suits anymore. Done.
Right.
Like, and if a client doesn't want to go with us because I'm not wearing a suit to a meeting, well, then I don't want them as a client,
Right.
because I want them to be okay with authenticity.
Yeah. No, and I think this is so. We could spend an hour talking about like clipping your tie. I'm wearing a t-shirt today. Like this is how we do business and how we show up. That authenticity, connecting with people. I mean, like you said, people smell a phony like within 7 seconds. Like you have 7 seconds to make that really great first impression. And they can tell if you're in it for one thing and not the other, and if you really mean it. So I love that you emphasize that. Thank you. If we're doing business together and you're really trying to help us reach that ideal client of ours, give us maybe some framework or pillars of how you go about doing that.
So historically, a lot of digital marketing minded people immediately jump to website, right? We need to reinvent your website. Many times that is the case, but it doesn't necessarily have to be step one. Now, if somebody doesn't have a website, yes, you do need a website, because really the website is where you send people from other marketing, right? So think about social media. If you see something on social, there's usually a click look to learn more button, which is bringing you to someone's website, right? Or if you're sending out an email, it's, read more, or you have some call to action in that email that is ultimately bringing somebody to your website, right? Gone are the days when people go and type in www.vitalwaydigital.com, right? They're going to Google too, right? Or they're seeing you on social, they're seeing you in other ways, and that's how you feed them to the website. So, my point of view is, if a client has a good enough website, well, let's start with the other stuff, and we can tackle the website once there's some revenue and profit margin and kind of like proof in the pudding from the other activities. What a lot of businesses miss is how to use social media for good, right? A lot of us are on social media, and some, I joke, are closeted social media users where they don't post, but they're on it, right? My mom is one of those people. Once in a while, you'll see her like something. She never comments and she'll never post, right? And that's okay. But those people are looking at those platforms, and we know that a lot of garbage can get served up in social. The platforms reward you based on what you're clicking on, what you're pausing on when you're scrolling. So if we can fill social with more good content, good meaning uplifting, helpful, positive content, the more people look at it, the more good content they're going to see. And so we can turn social from what's often looked at as like this negative force field into something more positive. And so that's how we work with our clients, is identify what's something helpful, positive you can bring to consumers, right? And it's not just selling you, it's providing a good thing that then people react positively to, and then they're attracted to do business with you, right? Whether it's a epoxy floor coating company, a tree service, a nonprofit doing amazing work with women and children and men, or a manufacturing company making important widgets that are needed to continue to fuel our lifestyles and economy, right? So my focus in working with a client is understanding what's the story they have to tell and the help that they can provide, and using that as the foundation to build the marketing on, and then the growth starts happening because people trust you. It's authentic. You're being you. You're not just trying to sell them something like everybody else on social media.
Preach, preach. Man, yeah, it's incredible. I was just pondering this the other day, how much social media has transformed our lives. It really has had a huge social shift. And there are, various, accounts of how it's disconnected people from real life, how people are addicted to the scroll, and exactly like you mentioned, when people stop, that's when the algorithms pay attention. Like, how long are you there? What are you doing while you're there? Are you clicking? Are you, checking out their profile? Are you following? Like, it really does try to engage with you. And there's a lot of reasons why it's so addictive, right? It's made to be addictive, and I know even some of the phone makers are saying they don't even give their kids phones because they know of how addictive the phone is. Anyway, like we're getting a little bit off track here, but the reality is, there are some very dark things. There's some very difficult things to deal with on social, but that's where people are. And that's where people are showing up. And that's where your client is. And if you're not there, if you're not telling your story is not being heard. Just how it
Mhm.
is anymore. So, with all that you've been talking to us about here on the marketing aspect, I really want to focus on this. What would you say is the most important piece? You've mentioned authenticity. You've also mentioned sharing your story. And you've had some other pieces here, like really knowing who your client is and those things that are very helpful, all good pillars to your framework. But what would you say is the most important piece and why?
Oh, that's a tough one. I think I generalize it by saying being a good human, right? And so, what do I mean by that? Um, First, underscore the word human. You're not an AI bot, right? Uh, be you, be human. People seek relationship and community. That's who we are as human beings, right? And when I say be a good human, that can mean a whole lot of things, but authenticity, as we've talked about, is a big one. Having integrity, um, not just doing something because somebody asked you to, but if you're like, that's not the right way to go, speak up, right? In a nice, supportive, helpful way. Like I tell my clients, if you're looking for an agency that'll just say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and do whatever you say, we're not the agency for you. If you ask us to do something, we're like, that may not be the best approach. What if? How might we? Right? Is the approach we're going to take. And even if you're like, hey, I want to spend $50,000, I'm just making up numbers to overhaul a whole bunch of stuff. If we look at it like, you don't really need to overhaul it, and that hurts our sales, well, so be it. At least we're being open and honest with the client and not just focused on a transaction, right? So I think it boils down to being a good human, doing the right thing, which is so basic and so preschool, but a lot of times we forget about it, right? And that's really the most important part to like building your business and relating with people. The rest kind of comes from there.
And the fact that you're wanting to do good, that's really part of that authenticity you're talking about, but it sounds more like motive. It sounds like what is your motive? What is your motivation behind what you're doing? Because people can sniff that out a mile away as well. And on social, there the biggest thing that I've seen is people being authentic with your story, authentic with how you're expressing yourself. Because one of the things I think is really missing that Russell Brunson talks about, one of the greatest marketers out there, talks about this attractive character. I worked for Joe Vitale for a number of years to help with his coaching program, and he was one of the hit stars of the movie The Secret. And you don't have to agree with everything that he has to say, but I really enjoyed working for him and learning from him. And I found that one of the things that he really, really talked about a lot was this, idea that like what you are is who you attract, right? So you're out there, you're doing good, and so therefore you're going to attract other people who want to do that as well. How do you help people? What are like one, two, three things that you teach them to do, or tell them to do, or train them to do, so that they can, share that story about how they do good for others?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is listening and understanding and helping them craft that story. Because a lot of us just aren't naturally good at that, and that's okay, right? And so I've got a great team of storyteller style writers, graphic designers who can, provide a feel, right? And it's hard to describe that. I'm not an artistic person. That's why I surround myself with creative people who have that skill set because I'm more just pretty, black and white, recognizing there's gray space, but more of the analytical than I am the creative. And so I think it's just making sure that we can tell their story and help them be congruent with that story, right? So if they're saying something on social, they also need to be saying that in email. And then of course, when the person interacts with their organization, the person needs to feel that too. Like, we expect that as consumers, that continuity now. If you go into a store and it feels drastically different than their website, or you call them and it feels super transactional, but their stores are very personal, there's a disconnect, right? And so it's helping a business owner see, how do you bring all of those pieces together to be cohesive in telling the story that you want to share, right? And how you can help that other person. Because they're not coming to your business to help you. They're coming to you because you can help them. Or if you're a nonprofit, it's because you can help other people, right? And so I really think it's just helping tell that story. There are some nuts and bolts, right? Like when I work with maybe a home services organization, we can bring all the leads to the table that we want, but it's up to that business owner to convert them, right? We can get all the calls in, but if that call doesn't get answered, if that request to set up a meeting or get a quote doesn't get replied to within 24 hours, like, we can't directly control that, right? I mean, they could outsource that to us, but that's not really the business we want to be in, because that's not as authentic as getting to the right person at the business to have a conversation, right? Or to the right product, depending on what the business is. So I would just say helping business owners tell their stories and making sure that the broader experience is congruent with that story.
Wonderful. Yeah, it's interesting. I love these conversations. I never know where we're going to end up, but storytelling keeps becoming this theme. To do good, tell your story of how you're doing this, your motive, your being authentic. If you were to say, hey, if you're struggling with telling your story, man, I know 100 ways to tell stories, and it's a lot of fun. But what have you found to be the most just, I guess, real and authentic, but also effective is the word I was looking for. What's the most effective way of telling your story so that your clients will relate to you?
I would say the easiest way or the best way would be, first, be genuine, right? If you don't know how to tell your story, go sit down and write it out or record it, whatever you do best, and identify what are the top things that continue to surface and how you're telling your story or what you're trying to do. It's kind of like the age old elevator pitch that we talk about in business all the time, of you've got 30 seconds to help somebody understand what you're up to and how you can help them, whether you're an employee in a company talking with another leader, another employer, et cetera, or another employee. You need to be able to be succinct, right? And have passion behind it. So to get to succinct, I often tell people, think in bullets. It's kind of like when I've gone through media training. The media is going to pick snippets. And so you want to give them the snippets that you want them to use. And so, how do you speak in bullets, and how do you kind of share a frame up in 30 to 60 seconds, and then see where the person listening to you wants to take it, right? That's one approach. The other is ask questions, listen, seek to understand. People often are okay talking about themselves or want to talk about themselves. Maybe not like personal things, obviously, but their business owners often are very excited to talk about their business and what they're doing and their teams. So listen, right? So it's be succinct, know what's important to you, and listen, I guess, would be the top ones that come to mind for me.
Yeah, we live in a world of, again, the online social world of only got a few seconds to really get those points across. And I'm not one to be as succinct sometimes. That's a really great reminder, like talk in bullets, because that's or bullet points, because that's what they have time for. That's what they see, or that's what they hear sometimes, like right on this podcast. And interview people, or ask questions. Wonderful way. I think sometimes we think we have to just produce something. But I've spent a career interviewing people. Before I've written either one of my books, I've interviewed close to 1,000 people for both Achieving Balance and Marry and Grow Rich. And I've learned, even though I think I know what the solution is, understanding who it is I'm writing the book for has greatly increased my reach and my understanding of the audience. Sometimes I think, okay, we know what we know, but is that the actual solution? And until we really understand that audience, yeah, that we could write the wrong book. We could have the wrong product. We could create the wrong
Hmm.
solution for the client, only to figure out that, gee, that's kind of all of our fault. And we could have avoided that had we done some more research and interview work. Well, these are really great points, Chris. I appreciate you bringing this up. Is there anything else that you would like to mention that is just like right on your heart that you're saying, yeah, yes, and I really want to talk about this because this would be really helpful?
I think one of those things would be this concept of balance, right? And is balance really, in my opinion, the right word? I think of it now, especially in this post COVID world, right? It's kind of like you've got BC and AD. It's like we need some term for post COVID, right? PC, whatever that might be. In this post COVID world, it's more about kind of work life integration, right? And it's one of the things I'm trying to focus on and building out Vital Way Digital is how do we make sure that all of us involved in the company have good life work integration. And what that is not anymore is I work from 8 till 5 and then I am done and I put it away. Like that's
Yeah.
just not how work often works anymore because you also want to be able to interject life into the workday, right? You want to get to the kids program. You want to get to kids sporting events right after school. So work should be able to flex just like life flexes for work if you have to travel for work. And so I think just thinking about it's not necessarily about balance and shutting one thing off and turning on another. It's about how do you bring them together? Now, all that said, it is important to unplug. It is important to have that downtime and separate from work, right? But it's also okay to realize that work and life can go hand in hand. And as long as you can like code switch pretty quickly and be yourself in both environments, then you're going to find more of that work life integration, which ultimately leads to a feeling of balance, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I wrote Achieving Balance, I would ask people, speaking of interviewing, I would ask them, what's your definition of balance? And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't believe in balance anymore. It doesn't exist, or it's integration, or it's harmony, or it's all these things. But what was interesting is most people were still describing work-life balance. And so in my book, I talk about like, yeah, work life balance is a myth. It's actually dead. We don't have it. It's not traditional anymore. And we work hybrid. We can work like flexible hours or across the world or whatever now. Like it's totally changed. So we need to throw work life balance out the window and just talk about balance. And what you ended with there is what so many other business owners told me. And that is it's less about trying to have some kind of equilibrium that quite honestly doesn't exist. That's the myth. It doesn't exist. You can't have, 50-50 or whatever. But then is the psychological balance, that feeling of having a balance in one's life. And when that's usually achieved, it's when one makes time for his or her highest priorities in life. Therefore, that idea of a balance is still achievable. It's just totally had a definition change. And
Hmm.
calling it integration or calling it other things, I think is a good step forward. And I appreciate you mentioning this. It's been so great to be here with you today. If there are business owners, solopreneurs, nonprofits out there who want to take you up on learning more after they try these storytelling techniques, these authentic doing good with bullet points on social and just wherever they are, being authentic with real people. How can they find you, man? What can they do to get a hold of you, Chris?
Yeah, reach out on LinkedIn. My website's vitalwaydigital.com. There's a contact us form on there. I don't verbally give out my email, and that's because bots pick that up and start spamming you. So those two methods are the best way to reach me, and happy to have a conversation.
It's very, very true. Unfortunately, these days with automation and AI and everything else, there's a lot of stuff out there. So thank you for making yourself available. Definitely check him out on LinkedIn. We'll have even a link here below so they can connect with you if they're interested. Thanks for being a guest here on the show, Chris.
Thank you, Dr. Perry. It was a great conversation. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you share this and do all the things. And until next time, remember, live life on purpose together.